mystical, so unpredictable, here on the SNL network.
Yes, that is right. The Saturday Night Network is on the air to talk about Saturday Night Live. Oh, finally. I'm so excited to get to talk about the season. Like, what a way to just end it, unceremoniously without getting to give it its due. And I know it's for a good reason, but it's been about a month since SNL was actually on the air. And I think it's about time that we can close the book on the season and look back at all of the greatest moments from season 48. And we do this as a tradition every single year with some great panelists for our post-season roundtable. So I'm so thrilled to be joined by all of them tonight. First up, let me bring in my man, TJ Randolph. TJ, how you doing?
John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. It is good to see you, Jonathan. It is good to be back in what is my second podcasting home. And I will say, John, you should know that I must quite enjoy you in this program very much because I'm taking a break from saving Hyrule Kingdom right now. I'm currently pausing on playing The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Don't know if anyone else in the audience is playing it right now, but for me to stop my hero's mission, John, to talk about Saturday Night Live, I think you should be thanking me, because there are people dying out there in Hyrule. So this is a service I'm providing to you for this program, but I'm happy to be here.
Okay, well, thank you. Seriously, you're doing amazing work.
Thank you. It's tough stuff.
Yeah, of course. Joining us as well. I mean, I could not go a whole month without getting to hear from her, so I had to have her back on. It is Amanda Mitchell. Amanda, how are you doing?
I'm so happy. I'm good. It's Monday. My company is bankrupt. Everything is great.
Throw that in there.
Ew.
I had a great morning. I woke up to the news, the New York Times saying that Vice Media Group is bankrupt. And great. My job is secure. I'm fine. But yes, okay. But I'm okay. My job is secure, but fun fact.
Congrats.
So,
congrats on
congrats
having a secure job.
To all of us and all the people in the bankruptcy. Love it. But I'm good. I'm happy. I'm going to talk about I'm mostly upset the fact that this season ended on the Ana de Armas episode. I'm like, y'all, what a whimper to go out on. But I'm going to be a spark to remind you of all the good moments that we've gone through because I need to think about something good right now. So yeah.
Yes. Positive vibes only, but of course, feeling for you, Amanda, and happy to have you here. And then for the third year in a row on our post-season roundtable, he is very used to doing these types of shows. He used to do award shows every single season for Saturday Night Live. It is my friend, Rich Tackenberg. Rich, so happy to have you on the show tonight.
I'm here to provide commentary, Chapter 13 bankruptcy protection, job, career advice. And I don't want to say I'm making as big a sacrifice as TJ, but I am taking a break from my job to be here. So
his way of employment.
It is my job to save the literal kingdom in Princess Zelda. All right.
Who is paying you?
I'm sorry, the people of Hyrule with their thanks. Excuse me.
I'm going to vote for Rich on this one. Yeah, I'm going to vote for Rich.
It sounds like the Chapter 13 bankruptcy protection may ultimately apply to TJ. Given the way he...
Someone here is going to
That's all right.
Actually, first of all, my name is not even TJ. It's Link. All right.
TJ, I think we had enough for that.
Yeah, I think that's the end of my Zelda reference knowledge. So
yeah, let's talk about Saturday Night Live because
too bad you're not the only ones listening.
All right. Let's talk about Saturday Night Live because I have been dying to talk about the show. We did a whole week of Bupkis coverage in case you missed it. It was a really fun show, all put together by Pete Davidson, Dave Cyrus, a bunch of great people that work with him. And that was really fun in case you missed that. But now we are finally back to talk about the end of the season. And what was season 48 all about, where there's lots of different themes and headlines that I feel about the season. And that is the way that we do things here on Monday nights for all of our roundtables all season long, is we talk about the overarching thoughts. So we're going to do the same thing tonight when it comes to the season. So TJ, I'm going to start with you over here. When you look back on season 48, what is, let's start with one thing that you think you're going to remember from the season.
If it has to only be one thing, I think the word ensemble, which has been a theme that I've been coming back to with the coverage I've been doing when I come back to the show, the thought of the ensemble. We have nearly half of our cast, not counting Joseph and Che, nearly half that have spent less than 2 years on this program. And I think some of the FaceTime that we got with them, I'm not as up to date on by the numbers, but I would assume that some of the FaceTime that they're getting has to be some like of the most unprecedented than we've seen for featured players in general. I think we have gotten such great personality from these newer players. They are like kind of like injecting themselves into the show. And I think with strong players like Heidi, Ego, and even Mikey having a phenomenal year, that like there's something so mixed in terms of, not mixed in terms of like up and down, mixed in terms of like truly this is a smorgasbord of people. The room, like Kate McKinnon and Cecily, even though she was there for a short time, aren't really taking, the space of the room. Keenan is there, but he's no longer fully taking the space of the room. I think the fact that we've really gotten to see some personality, with the exception maybe of Devin Walker, we've gotten to see some real personality from these first years in their first year compared to people like, I don't know what it was like for, Michaela Watkins, Abby Elliott, Nassim Pajai. I don't remember what it was like for them in the first year, but to think about that on the heels of what the Aristotle kind of not getting on, I think it's been fascinating to watch. So I think ensemble has been the biggest theme of this season.
Totally agree with that. I feel like every episode you went into the season not knowing who was going to dominate the night, and that was very different from what we've seen in the previous years. And you touched on a lot of different points, including cast departures that happened previously and the new additions. We're going to cover all of those things, but I want to get overall thoughts from Amanda first.
I agree with TJ. I think this is one of the strongest junior casts we've ever seen. And maybe not ever, but like seen in a very, very long time. It's like nothing really, when it missed, but everyone got their screen time. There was no like through line. There was no who this season. Maybe if there was a who this season, it might be Devin Walker, but like there was no real official like LOL, like how is this person still here? Like the running joke, the who. So I appreciate that. But if I think about this season 48, when the first thing come to mind truly is Black excellence. Like we had some incredible Black hosts, some incredible moments from the Black cast members, and a lot of collaboration in that way. That I thought was really, really interesting to watch, especially for this show. Like I was forget which one when I was rewatching The Black Lotus today, I was like, this is so inside-y Blackness, like that in a way that I don't think SNL would have let us do 15 years ago, because it's like, oh, that's not universal humor. But like this is it's a universal humor rooted in, this concept that everyone is watching. And so, yeah, I think it was just a great season to be a person of color on this show. Just for real. Yeah. Good.
I could not agree more. I mean, 10 years ago, think about this. There was news articles everywhere talking about, can SNL, like, why is SNL not hiring a Black woman as a cast member? And how far we've come almost in 10 years, where now it's like there is a mix in the cast. There's lots of different people from different backgrounds, and we have that, hosts that representing all different types of people as well. So I do think that they're, obviously in the long term with 48 seasons, the, diversity is not equal, but, they have made more of an effort over the last few years, and I do appreciate that.
So I have a question, and this might be more of a Mike Murray question.
Sure.
We have, I want to say, at least 5 Black hosts this season, and we had a lot of Black musical guests. Like there was, oh my God. I know we're not talking about music, but there was so much hip hop and R&B and just like melanin in the season. But I'm really wondering, I know that season 43 had the most amount of Black hosts at 7. That was the Donald Glover, Tiffany Haddish. That was the year Black Panther was out. That was a huge, I don't know if it was just Opals that same year, but it doesn't matter. But that was like a huge year for like Black hosts. I'm wondering if this is the one in second place, because this for me has been a pretty, I don't know, this has been a pretty fun season for me in terms of like hosting picks, not just because of like Black hosts, but like in terms of like mixed bag of people like Pedro, Pascal, Ana de Armas, like really trying different perspectives, than just like white and Black people. I thought that was a really interesting angle. So I do wonder, if this is kind of the one in second place, or I'm looking at the little picture the SNL, the Saturday Night Network posted of all the hosts that we've had, and kind of seeing all their faces together in one clip. There is truly like a mixed like coloring bag here Wait, is there an Asian host? Okay, it's not an Asian host, but like, like there still is kind of like a really interesting like mix of perspectives here versus kind of like a lineup of just like white and black men.
Yeah.
So I think
it's not just the host, right? It's the host, it's the
Mhm.
cast, it's the writing room as well, and that trickles down to the fans because then people start to watch the show and they feel like the show is for them also. And that creates, it's great for everybody. So I think it's a wonderful thing. So that's definitely a positive. And Rich, I would love to bring you in as well to get some overall thoughts on the season.
Man, I was itching for a fight tonight, but I got to agree with everything that's been said so far. Interesting for me in that it was such a big reboot season in a lot of ways, not only in the cast, but even in the number of first-time hosts we saw this year. And yet, I think the theme that comes to my mind looking back on it is effortless. It really felt like this didn't feel like a rebuilding year. This didn't feel like a year where the featured players had to find their footing. It wasn't a year where people had the growing pains of going from the new kid to elder statesperson in the cast. It felt really effortless for me. I mean, right out of the gate, the first sketch of the first episode, just really strong, really different, really fresh. And, the thing that I really love when SNL is working is it feels both timeless and of the moment. And so a lot of what we're talking about inclusivity, a lot about just even the inclusivity of different styles of comedy that we're not just seeing the same beats and rhythms that we would have seen 10 years ago. So it feels very fresh, and yet it still feels like the SNL spirit that I grew up with. So I thought it was just a really strong job by everyone there.
And I think the theme here in all of our discussions is that this was a good season of Saturday Night Live. And I think that the previous seasons we got to cover here have been a mixed bag at certain times. And I'm not saying that every episode was perfect. I think we had probably the strongest sustained run of SNL excellence that we've had in a very long time this season, midway through. But I think there's a lot of things to be positive about. And, I do want to sort of go back to what we said in the preseason when we started to preview this season, which was like, what do we think the season's going to be about? And it was a lot of what Rich talked about, which was that this was going to be a transition season. I think back to a lot of times where there's been cast turnover in the way that this happened this year. And oftentimes the first year feels really rough. It's, people trying to figure out who do they write well with, who are they good with in sketches. And I feel like a lot of the bumps and bruises were figured out pretty quickly. So is this, TJ, I want to know from you, did you feel like this was a transition year? Are we going to remember it that way?
I love that you asked that question because as you were kind of posing it. As you were kind of posing it, it made me think myself too, does the fact that we've had this theme of ensemble, does that equal transition? Because you don't have sort of a main voice. You don't have a Kate McKinnon or a Cecily Strong really kind of like standing on top of everything, doing Goober the Clown or the Tambit the truck driver, whatever. You don't have somebody kind of standing on. So does not having a main center, like a certain lead, a Logan Roy, if you will, just not having that necessarily, does that mean that like the show is in transition? And I'll be honest, John, I don't think it is. What's crazy is it is in a transition year. You had major cast departures. You had people leave mid-season. You had people still, like COVID-19 finally like clearing out. I think, yes, this was transition year, but I don't think it was let's figure out our stuff year. I think that I think the show had its own voice this season. I think it really had great footing. I think, well, I don't want to say it necessarily had foundation. I want to say that it for sure did not feel like it was stumbling. It wasn't a rough transition by any means at all. I still wonder, is this what new SNL is supposed to look like? What is season 49 going to look like? But this by far like was definitely like, well, this wasn't scrambled. It wasn't like, like dealing with an emergency, like when something's airing, like it was, I think it was better handled in terms of at least making everyone feel comfortable, still cranking out funny stuff, getting great bookings, like great solid host booking, like getting nice stars that people like, besides Brendan Gleeson, like, getting solid talent. Sorry, I was going to try to escape.
Well,
acid.
TJ, I'm going to cut
yeah.
you off for a second, just because I don't want to be here till 3 a.m. But
Whatever.
to your point, but also thinking about the transition, this was a year that we lost 9 cast members, beloved, many of them I love, but I don't feel like I lost characters that I wasn't done with yet.
We haven't had characters to lose.
That's, there wasn't a lot of reoccurring characters that I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen enough of Ellen. I haven't seen enough of 80s character. So I felt like it was a refresher. Even though we lost people I love, it really opened the door. Instead of this vacuum of, oh my God, what's going to be the amazing weekend update feature we can't all wait to see, it was really this moment to say, let's now fill this with new. We're excited to see new. Let's get that new instead of feeling like a loss. I thought it was a real positive.
Yeah. No, I think it is a positive as well.
I have a long metaphor. It's not a long metaphor, but basically, like TJ talked about the tent pole and the tent pole being held up and having basically one person. I feel like actually for a while SNL, they were all in a boat and a few people were running around and keeping that boat like and wobbling it and people would run to steady that boat, but other people would be stuck on the other end, not getting enough time at the boat, and the boat nearly capsized. So now the boat is leveling off because now we have our steady main players who kept the boat level, and we don't have people running around keeping things, having everyone having to run to fix it and try to fill it out. And sometimes the boat would literally capsize, and sometimes the boat might stay afloat, but it might be slowly sinking. I think we had to get rid of some of the people on the boat. And I think that's what happened here. And I'm actually really happy to see that, because now it means that like we might be moving to a bigger boat and a more shinier, like a below deck boat. And we get to like, and that'd be really exciting, because then we have more things to play with, more slides to go down on our boat, and islands to visit. There's so many
a lot of nautical themes here.
Yeah, I think we get it. But yeah, I mean, like, look, this is our 3rd season covering the show on like a full-time basis. So season 46 to me was very clear. That was the COVID year. Season 47 to me, I'm going to always remember it as the last gasp for, players that were on for a decade. This just felt completely fresh in a lot of ways, not only for the new players, but for the veteran cast members who didn't get the time in previous years. So Mikey Day, like, totally emerged this season, coming out with putting stuff on the show that felt so like intuitive and different that we've seen in the last few years. I felt like he was able to like write for new cast members. He was inspired. I really feel like Heidi put out a lot of really good stuff this year too. I felt like Chloe did some really good stuff also. I mean, if I look, we're going to get into the data on By the Numbers next week when we do that with Mike and break down each and every cast member. But I do feel like the veterans were a good stabilizing presence for the newbies. And, I have 2 really quick things I do want to run by you, and then we'll sort of get into our favorite moments from each element of the show this season. But first is, we brought it up briefly, Cecily Strong's departure was a major tentpole moment in this season. It was unexpected in some ways, and in other ways, it was like, all right, well, I guess why didn't this happen in May? But, we were going into that Christmas episode and we found out a couple hours before that Cecily Strong was leaving the show. And this felt to me like this was the last, I guess Jay and Jost have been around a long time, but this felt like the last remnant of the previous era that sort of needed to go to be able to hand the show off. But some people were very nervous about this and wasn't sure how the show was going to look, due to the fact that she was so dominant in those 6 episodes we saw her there. So, Rich, I do want to start with you on this one. I'd like to know what your thoughts were overall on Cecily's departure and how that affected or didn't affect the season.
It was a weird, because, she came back when everyone else, so many other people had left, but then she was on a leave of absence while she was doing a show in LA. So it was a strange, she's here, but she's not here. She wasn't even in the opening credits when we started the season. She came back and, and then had a lot of screen time while she was here. I think it was a nice sort of, bridge to some degree. The fact that in the middle of the season, we had let a lot of the players establish themselves before she came came back, did take a lot of screen time. She is that star that, that we've come to love, and then say goodbye in a very, direct way where she wasn't one of 4 people leaving. So she got to have her moment. I thought it was a really nice rhythm to the season.
Yeah, and that moment too, where she did depart, and then you had the whole Blue Christmas thing with singing goodbye. Like, she did get something that, not a lot of people do get, which is having like a whole sketch dedicated to her time on the show. And she truly will be remembered as one of the greatest cast members ever. TJ, I know you are a huge fan of Cecily Strong. So how do you feel like the show was able to stabilize themselves after she left, and your thoughts on her departure this season?
I'll be honest. Like, I when it comes to Cecily, I think my fandom of her was slowly, I'm not my fandom of her, my just kind of, she started to get kind of like the Kate syndrome, where I was ready to move on. So although it was surprising, and she could have stayed on for a long time, I thought that she could have stayed on for a long time. For a long time, I was okay with her staying on, like almost like a Keenan. But Keenan seems to have this malleableness, like a melted starburst, where you can really just kind of move it around. That's a terrible metaphor. But sorry, there's this malleableness that, like,
have we been off the air for too long? Or people just coming up with
it's really
where in the starburst is the boat? Wait.
Is it with Zelda? Did Zelda bring the melted starburst to the boat?
But TJ is right. I mean, I will say, to the point I made earlier, there wasn't a Cecily character that I felt like, oh my God, I'm so upset I'm not going to see more of that character, because I hadn't heard enough from her. So I agree that the time felt right.
Yeah.
I think it was just like it was good. Like, I think once it kind of settled on, like, all right, most of Cecily's pieces are, this isn't true, but like a lot of Cecily's pieces are her playing a straight woman, her playing with pets, her singing, or there was like a fourth thing, and she was good at all those things, and they were refreshing, and that kind of defined her. But I think I really just kind of missed some of like the other, hold on, what am I trying to say here? What I'm trying to say here is that, like, for me, it was really, it seemed like a weird choice to kind of just like pop out from LA, go to work, and they'd be like, all right, deuces, I'm leaving after 2 months. Like, it seemed like from an HR perspective, I was like, you left like you came back and now you're leaving again. Like, but also, she has that carte blanche. She put that time in. She was an excellent, phenomenal, like, for me, an all-time cast member. I just thought it was kind of weird. I'm cool with it because I really like the energy of that second half of the season. Like, I was loving those, I don't know, except for Brendan Gleeson.
Well, it was just, this is the thing, TJ. It was unusual, right? Because it's been a very long time since we had a cast member of significance depart mid-season. And that would be back to probably Seth Meyers, who did that to start his show. And then there was like the pre-Seth Meyers era of that season and the post-Seth Meyers era of that season, where Colin Jost is going to come in and join the show. And that's what, I'll remember that season for that. And then here it's like, is there a pre-Cecily and a post-Cecily era of the season? And funny enough, I don't think there is. I don't think the show changed at all. Like, Amanda, I don't know if you disagree, but
no, I actually agree. I don't.
What?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, John. I don't think that. No.
Yeah,
there were three different eras.
There
were 3 eras of this season. The 3 episodes where she wasn't there and Heidi was kind of like stacking up in the numbers. Okay. The second era, the 6 episodes where she was there, and she completely took up a lot of space in the room. She was Kate for 6 episodes, and then the third, not era, but you know what I mean, third part of the season, which was the second half. Which, man, this was a weird season that ended, 3 episodes not airing. God, rest in peace to Jennifer Coolidge. But like, I feel like there was something so interesting about those first 3 episodes, at least for myself as a Heidi fan, kind of seeing like what were Heidi and Ego kind of doing with the room and this space. And then I was glad to get back to that when Cecily left, and granted, Mikey kind of ended up taking a lot of that space too, which is kind of funny, but like, I was kind of glad to have there was a little more room for everyone.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Oh, there was so much heat in that. Sure. Well, you can say something, Amanda. You can say if you have something to say.
I'm just not as long-winded as you are, babes.
That's okay. I know my role. I know who I am.
Yeah,
John's the one who asked me back, so blame him.
All right, well, let's talk about one more thing before we get into the sketches, which is the new cast members. We touched on them very briefly, but obviously they had to put some new blood into the show this year, and they decided to bring on 4 new cast members. That's a lot, right? You know, we're used to getting maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, but this time we got 4 new cast members in Michael Longfellow, Marcelo Hernandez, Devin Walker, and Molly Carney, and it was just so great right off the bat to see each of them be put on to Weekend Update in Longfellow, Marcelo, and Devin. Started to get to know them a little bit. Molly obviously had their big moment at the end of the season, but throughout the entire season, they each had moments where they popped up. And Amanda, I'd like to ask you this question. Like, how do you feel like the rookies did overall? Maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, if I could ask you, like, how were the rookies this year?
A solid 8. A solid 8. Like no one really disappointed me. Like and usually when there's no, I mean, how do I say this? Like, there's always one newbie who doesn't stand out. We talked about it. Devin Walker, I'm so sorry, my brother. You were so cute, but I wanted so much more from you. But it's like, especially because the other 3 newbies, you know, like the baby queens coming in were so strong. I was like, you know, I think Michael Longfellow had one of the best debut seasons I've seen in a very long time. And so I think that they got a solid 8 because when they were really good, and I'm glad they got the space to be good. And I think that really helps with getting them to an 8 status, is the fact that they were also allowed the space to be good instead of being, you know, swallowed up by you know, veteran cast members. Yeah.
Rich,
so
I feel like
go ahead. The rest of the cast gets points for that too. Gets sprinkles for that too.
Ooh,
yeah.
Sprinkles. I love sprinkles.
Rich, I feel like everybody's coming back from the rookie class. I that was not something that clearly we felt over the last couple of years with every single one of them. I think that we're on great footing with each of them and that they could end up having a lot of longevity on the show for many seasons to come. Is that your thought as well?
Oh, definitely. I'd be very shocked if anyone from this class didn't come back for another season. You know, it would be brutal given the abbreviated season if someone didn't get brought back. But I think so. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's very strong. I think we've had a lot of strong. I think last year we also got a lot of strong people coming in. You know, a real testament to. I mean, this show's been on 48 years. Maybe Lauren himself is not going out to the clubs finding comedians, but the team is still finding fresh voices after 48 years. I'm 54. I haven't had a fresh idea in 36 years. So the fact that they're still finding young, great talent is really inspiring. And, you know, and I will also add, what a great nod that we had a pre-tape in our season premiere of the featured players talking about being featured players coming to the show. I haven't seen that welcome to maybe the, you know, are they a new cast member or are they an Arcade Fire band member sketch from many, many years ago. So I thought that was a great way to introduce us more formally and then see Michael Longfellow and Marcel, you know, see people show up at the Weekend Update. So great intro.
I know you're not a Brendan Gleeson fan yourself, but that was in the Gleeson episode, just to clarify for all of the anybody else who was wondering. The new cast member pre-tape was the Gleeson.
Oh, that wasn't in the first one. Sorry.
No problem. But still, right at the beginning of the season. But yeah,
I thought it was 2, Rick. I'm sorry. I did too. Sorry, my brain.
Yeah,
I thought it was.
Well, TJ, anything else you want to say about the rookies, or should we get into the sketches?
I'm just really impressed with Longfellow and Hernandez, like how they kind of seem to find their mode a little bit, like with Michael kind of playing, you know, having this like sarcastic like flair, and then also doing the costumes with the Punxsutawney Phil and the Dilbert, like he had a kind of a standout moment, and I think it's so cool that each of these cast members got to have a standout moment in this particular season. Molly being up in the rafters, Marcelo like in the Waffle House sketch, and Michael playing Dilbert. Now, granted, they also did other really cool things as well, but if I took at least one moment out of the season for them that they were at least a part of, even though Marcelo wasn't the main piece of Waffle House, I still think about his physicality in the characters, or him and the Pedro Pascal being a mom sketch. Like, I do wonder, this might be more of a question to the panelists. Was that intro to the new cast members pre-tape did that warm us up even more to these cast members? Like, if we didn't get that sketch, would we still be trying to seek like like trying to seek out like what's Devin Walker going to do? What is Marcelo going to do? We got all of them like in like near the top of the season in one pre-tape, and then they kind of went from there. And so I do wonder, for me, that made me feel a little bit more endeared to them because they each got to do something a little silly or at least kind of like talk a little bit.
I think for me,
makes me think.
It made me feel like I want to see more of Molly, which was a little bit delayed because I think Molly was really the star of that specific piece.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think that, going to show most of the rookies off the bat is always a really good idea because the show is, I always say, at its best when it's a little bit meta. So the fact that they were able to do that was a really strong choice.
Yeah.
I'll also throw in interesting that the pendulum between are we hiring stand-ups or are we hiring sketch comedians? The last 3 years, we've been really heavy on stand-up, and yet these stand-up actors are doing really well with characters, sketches, listening, creating space for others. So really interesting fit to the mix.
Yeah.
I would also like to give like props to Jimmy Fowley, who was a new writer on this season, who has done incredible work. Like, they hired Jimmy for Bowen. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that Jimmy wasn't hired just to write for Bowen, but Jimmy did a really great job this season, in just terms of being a junior writer in that room, who's been working for a long time as a comedian out in the streets with the Groundlings and things like that.
Shout out Jimmy.
Yeah. A lot of great new writers, and that is another one. So yeah, I would really look forward to talking about each of these cast members in more detail. So I'm just going to recommend that if you would love to hear all of the data, all of the information about how each cast member did this season, come back and join us next week for By the Numbers, because Mike Murray is preparing a lot of stuff for you. So it's really informative. But today we're going to talk about the sketches, our favorite moments of each element of the show. And we're going to start off with our cold opens. So interesting enough, I think that overall thoughts on cold opens it was the weakest part of the show coming into this season. I think people were really struggling with the cold opens, and obviously there was a huge change in 47. The talk was, okay, we brought in this James Austin Johnson guy right off the bat. He's playing Trump. We've left the Alec Baldwin era. Now we're looking at seeing, okay, who is going to take over these cold opens, and he just crushed it. And we got Biden, Trump all last season. This season, not so much, not too much Biden. We definitely had a lot of Trump in there, but we also had some other different experimental cold opens mixed in. Rich, let me kick it off with you. What was your favorite cold open from this season?
Couple of runner-ups, but for me, the best of the season, I'm going all the way back to episode 1. I'm going to do the Manning cast of an SNL cold open. I loved that we started out with a very meta sketch. It was a Trump sketch. Then we had the Manning brothers with a host Miles Teller as one of the cast members in a cold open, commenting on the sketch. I thought it had everything I want in a cold open. It had great energy. It was fresh. It had impressions, and most importantly, it had a cameo by Jon Hamm. So I thought it was an unbelievable way to kick off the season, and that was my favorite.
Love Jon Hamm. Love him.
I love that cold open. I thought it was so smart. I was just stunned the fact that we were getting this, because like I said, going into the season, I was not expecting, this type of thing. And that was the best sketch of that episode, in my opinion. And people were going nuts over it. Amanda, what about you? How are you feeling about the cold opens this season? And what was your pick?
There weren't that many hilariously strong cold opens, to the point where I genuinely racked my brain. I sat for at least 15 minutes and tried to think, and I enjoyed the Easter one, but I was like, is that just the one that was freshest in my brain, because I hadn't watched the Anna de Armas episode because I only watched it today. Is that why?
No,
Probably.
that was a pretty good one. I
think it was just too long. It was just too long. But I think I really I read Glenn Rich Bucked, I think probably the most, and the Easter one, that's it. Just because I just love, an Easter motif on Saturday Night Live, especially about Trump and Jesus and Easter, and it was all good timing. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Easter one was from the Molly Shannon episode. I think it was really strong.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
And I think there was also meta elements to that cold open.
Yeah.
The whole like snapping your fingers and pausing the people, and him talking about what's happening behind him. And I think it was good. I mean, the fact that we'll talk about what the audience said in just a moment, but the fact that so many people seem to enjoy a Trump cold open is a pretty big deal. And I guess I would love to know from the panel. I mean, I think we're gonna get a lot more Trump cold opens coming up because obviously he's still in the news. Is the fact that they are able to produce at least one good one this season, does that mean that they should keep trying? What do you think, Amanda?
I'm sad that we didn't get one after last week's events. I'm sad. I was the only reason I was sad we didn't get SNL last week is because so much happened that would have been great for parody. I am, not to spoil it, but last night's Succession, just the whole theme. I'm not giving away what happens, just the theme.
Okay, all right.
No spoilers.
Don't interrupt me. And the theme of it reminded me how not prepared I am for next year. And so maybe I don't want to be pre-fatigued for SNL Trump jokes week after week, week in, week out. And I'm hoping that it won't be that way. But I also feel like I need to err with caution and not be like, well, this is good. I'm glad we did this. It's like, okay, let's keep it real trim, keep it real close to the chest, because you've got a good thing happening here, and we can just not too much. I think it's my viewpoint.
Rich, you got opinion on this with the Trump cold opens?
What do you think? I don't have an opinion on something, John? You just meet me? What are you talking? Of course I have an opinion. I do think that obviously him coming in the beginning of last year, his impression was so strong, so fun. It was a great breath of fresh air that we needed. I found it started to get formulaic, and I felt like mid this season, right around the Chappelle episode where Trump shows up in the Fox and Friends open, which overall was not a great cold open. I felt like the writing, James himself and the writers found more nuances to Trump, and they started, it wasn't just, here's a list of things, we're now going to go through the random ranting from here to here, and we all know where it's going. And I felt like even in the Trump Easter, with him making fun of the cast members behind him, which was as Trump, not as James Austin, Trump was making fun of the cast, which was wonderful, the Trump train visit. So I'm okay, because I do think that we're finding more shades and colors and nuances to this impression that are keeping it fresh for me.
DJ, let's get your opinion on this, and then your pick for your favorite cold open from the season.
What do you want my opinion on specifically?
Just the Trump cold opens in general, or if you don't have one, that's fine. We could go on to your pick.
I mean, like, I've kind of like made it clear before, the Trump cold opens haven't really been my thing, but I did have a come to Jesus moment. Sorry, I did have a come to JAJ moment this season where I saw the light, and I finally
Jesus
saw.
was also in the Easter theme cold open.
It was.
Yeah.
Well, I finally got it, and like was really kind of vibing with what JAJ was doing. And it was the first time that his like Trump impression, like when he did the Trump impression at the update desk, but as himself, I still like this is crazy, but it's been like a month or two. I still hear I've been waiting a long time for that Negroni. Like I still hear that like in my head. It's like something that's been cracking me up. And that was the first time, like it was that line specifically that like got a lot of the toxicity that the Alec Baldwin Trump had. And I was like, okay, now we're just kind of laughing at a person, as opposed to like this kind of what feels like a weird support for this guy. And also they gave some room and some breath to like other stuff rather than just Trump and Biden. So the Easter one was like cool, I guess. Like I'm not really, the cold opens don't really hit for me. Like I was, it's crazy. Like when I was going through my notes, it was the only space until like Amanda said something that I did not have anything listed for. And I was like, there's no way John's going to ask specifically about cold opens. And like, I'll be fine.
I mean, you got the rundown before we did the show. I said,
I know I did. No, I have a rundown and I wrote down like the different themes. And it was the only one that I was like, I don't have something for this, but I doubt John will specifically go for it. I was wrong. Like I'm the problem. It's me. So when I actually like went through it, I realized when I was kind of scrolling through the sketches that I forgot about the first warm day of the year. And I know that's also very recent, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like
Me too.
I'm not a New Yorker like Amanda is, but I have lived on the East Coast my entire life, and I know what that first warm day energy is like. I know they don't have one in New York City, but if you're, if it's starting to get warm, you're going to wonder when Rita's is going to be opening, so you can get yourself an Italian ice.
It is open. My Rita's is open.
Good.
And
so,
I want to go.
So, like that first warm day of the year, that hit home for me. I know a lot of people didn't like it because they thought it was too New York City. It's not. That was an East Coast sketch. Like, that's exactly what that was. And so I enjoyed it. So that for me hit really well. But like, other than that, the cold opens aren't always the place I'm really going to get a strong source of enjoyment.
Well,
Yeah.
Let's see what the audience thought about the cold opens from this season, and then we'll get any other opinions on cold opens. So here we go. I think you did a very good job with these this time because you nailed the top three. So with a 32% of the vote, first place was The Last Supper cold open from the Molly Shannon episode. Number 2 was the Manning Cast. I'd say I prefer the Manning Cast. That'd probably be my pick from the Miles Teller episode. So that was the premiere, 28% of the vote in second place. First warm day of the year, that would be the Anna de Armas episode, 20%. Number 4 was So You Think You Won't Snap. That was the Brendan Gleeson episode, our second episode of the season, where we got this game show hosted by Bo and Yang. And then number 5 was the Chinese spy balloon. Remember when that was a big thing? Well,
yes. Yeah. That one almost, that like when I was going through it, like I missed first one day of the year, but spy balloon was the only other one that caught my eye. Is like, I remember there was a lot of silliness around that, but I didn't remember if I didn't rewatch it to see if I liked it. But that was in my that caught my eye too.
Yeah, so that came in 5th place, the Pedro Pascal episode with 4% of the vote. So those are your top 5. Rich, any surprises here?
I think the spy balloon is funny that made the list, because it was a little bit ago and it was very topical. And I think that, what I see here is the things that are not as topical are more memorable to us after the fact. They're not as disposable.
Oh yeah, that spy balloon, that's not going to make sense to anyone in 3 years. Like, unless you lived through it. That's such a news of the week.
I already forgot about that.
Exactly. It's not.
And I learned about it an hour before that episode aired. So like, wow.
That one is not gonna make sense to people. That is not gonna age well at all. It's just Bowen in a costume. Like, that's the only reason it also, it's another Bowen costume moment.
But let's be clear here. This is 80% of the vote went to the first 3 cold opens on the list, The Last Supper, Manning Cast, and First Warm Day of the Year. So those are the 3 that really stood out this season. And then everything else is really take your pick from there. All right. Any other overall thoughts on the cold opens?
I say this every year. I want to say this to the writers because I know you're all waiting on bated breath. What advice is Rich Tackenberg going to give us professional writers who make TV for a living? But, this is the existential crisis that SNL has. Amanda said it. Oh my God, this thing happened this week. I can't wait to see what SNL does. When they do that, statistically, it's rarely the sketch that we remember. What we remember is, because we've already seen it on late night. We've seen it on TikTok. We've seen it on all these other, we've seen it covered so many other places. Where the cold opens shine for me is when they just look at like First Warm Day of the Year, the Manning Cast of themselves, the meta. That's what we now look to SNL for 48 seasons in. I hope in season 49 we chase less the topic of the moment and more the insightful thinking about what's going on more broadly, like what's going to make you snap, or First Warm Day of the Year, what's in the zeitgeist that's not what happened 4 days ago. That's just me.
That makes sense. All right. Well, let's talk about monologues from this season. And I would love to go around the panel and ask if anybody has a favorite monologue or what they think about the monologues from season 48. So TJ, let's start with you this time.
So for me, I'm a little biased, and I kind of was biased in my rankings with these. I'm going to say that the Aubrey monologue is pretty up there for me in terms of, because I was there live to see it. It was my first time seeing the show live. So that's always going to stick a place in my heart, having Amy Poehler burst out. Like, I remember screaming at the top of my lungs in the audience when I realized where like Aubrey was, and she poked out and I saw a little blonde head and I was like, wait, who is that? Like, so that's for me is always going to be a really nice, warm, like that's like an all-time life moment for me. And it's Chappelle, because I love a Chappelle monologue. I just like a stand-up. I've been a fan since I was a kid. Also, I'm going to say Harlow, only because there's a line in there that's still funny to me where like he makes a line about like people said that he's are telling him that he's not 6 foot, and he just says, "Stop it!" Like just something about the energy that I always thought was amusing to me. And so like just saying one line, so I'll give it to him. But definitely Aubrey and definitely Chappelle.
Amanda, what about you? What were your thoughts on the monologues this season? And which one was your favorite?
Miss Kiana Palmer. Hello.
Oh, that was a good one.
We got a pregnancy announcement.
Oh yeah, we did. We totally did. I forgot.
We got a pregnancy announcement. And she's also the funniest woman alive. So like I'm biased. So get ready for this to be the Amanda Mitchell loves Keke Palmer out like our congratulations, welcome. But like I thought it was so well written, so tight. I also love Quinta Brunson's monologue also. And like I mean, and you know what going back, I really was touched by Austin Butler's little monologue love letter to his mother. Like it wasn't necessarily haha funny, but it was very charming. And for a person that literally, I'm guessing at that point, barely anyone knew anything about him other than the fact that he was Elvis commitment, weird, like, method acting thing, and then Vanessa Hudgens. So it was like, oh, cool. You also love your mother. Great. Cool. He dated Vanessa Hudgens for a really long time. That's the only reason why people knew about him before he played Elvis.
Thank you.
Yeah. He was Mr. Vanessa Hudgens.
Also, just piggyback
fact
on what
I
you
just
said.
learned on this podcast, Austin Butler dated Vanessa Hudgens. Got it.
Just piggybacking, I think even though like that Aubrey episode is going to be a special place in my heart, I think Keke was the best host of the season.
Oh, we're gonna touch on that.
By far,
we're gonna get there because I know.
I'm just saying. I think she had it in the bag.
Well, this is just pure monologues because, Rich, I feel like the monologues did something interesting this year, which is very similar to 47, that they talked about, something previous that has happened in their lives, and that was a way to connect with the audience. But I do feel like they were slightly more emotional this year than what we got in previous years. Like, it really felt like they were speaking from the heart in a way a lot of times, and it was basically one of two things. It was either like someone coming in and writing their own monologue and doing their own version of stand-up, or you had the SNL writers really like pushing this host to reveal a part of themselves. So I thought that this was an interesting balance for season 48. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, overall, without getting, taking out Amy Schumer and Dave Chappelle because stand-up comedy is a whole different form. I like in season 47, I really have come to enjoy an actual monologue where we get to know the person, even if it's not the funniest. We get to know the person. We talk about Keke, you talk about Austin, we talk about, Pedro. We get to know the person, which humanizes them for the rest. Also, it is a moment. If it is truly a monologue, it is a form of comedy unlike the rest of the show. Once we're running around the stage or we're having, other people show up, then it starts to feel like a sketch or it feels like Weekend Update. So I really do like when we just keep it centered on one person, that it's intimate, it's quiet, and we get this moment that is unlike comedically anything else. To your point, if I were more cynical, I would say that it did feel like there was this contest to see who could be more touched by being a host and how much it meant to them more than anyone else. Luckily,
don't lie to the audience. You are very cynical. You are.
Why would you bring it up if you weren't that cynical?
Guess what?
If I was more cynical, here's my take. That is actually my take.
I am the audience that it works on. I am the audience who is crying during those monologues. Woo! Tell me about your family.
I do like a couple of tears if you can get it out of me.
I will say though, I really enjoy it. It to me, it jumped the shark on the Ana de Armas, where she was trying to say how important it was to her, but there was no actual connection that she stated. She hadn't talked about watching the show growing up. There was no family. So it was this like, it was this big moment for her, but it felt like more what she was really saying is, this is a thing that is very important, not as like other people talked about how specifically SNL meant to them. I felt a little bit like we were starting to just sort of, it was becoming a thing that like you were almost obligated to do. I hope that dials back to the moments for which it is genuine, of which we had a number of them this season.
Saying all of that, which was your favorite?
I don't have a favorite. It's hard to say. I always go to stand-up comedy because I love the stand-up comedy, but nothing really stood out to me as a particular favorite of mine. I thought so many of them were good.
Wait,
wow,
didn't
you
we
are
have
giving
another
TJ an
story?
out right now by not picking a monologue, because then anybody else on the panel could be like, nope, I don't know, but you have to
I
tell
thought
me,
a
Rich.
lot about it. I mean, boy, there was I
Pick one.
liked Pedro Pascal a lot, and I really liked Quinta Brunson. I'm gonna go Quinta Brunson.
All right. Okay, very cool. Well, I know which one I liked, and it's just a coincidence that this one is brought up as the number one by the audience. So let me put up the audience poll, and then we'll talk about it. But here we go. Top 5 monologues from this season, from season 48. Put up
What?
Steve and Marty as the number one. 39% of the votes is Steve and Marty, where they did basically a version of what they do on the road, where they are roasting each other. I was
That was
dying
pretty good.
during this. This was so funny to me, the back and forth between Steve and Marty, and just two SNL legends, let alone comedy legends, being on stage, just going at it. Steve Martin potentially for the last time on the show. You never know. Coming back and hosting after a very long time. That to me was fantastic. I was showing everybody this monologue. Aubrey Plaza, yeah, we mentioned it, number 2. So TJ was there in the house, but also we got to go backstage a little bit with Aubrey. It was really fun. She got the SNL pages involved. Damien Poehler was there. Lauren was in it. So that was a really great time. Amanda brought up Keke Palmer. Well, how great was that when she announced that she was pregnant on the show? The pictures of that were everywhere. Chappelle monologue, interesting. So brought up, obviously, a lot of people like Dave Chappelle. A lot of people don't like Dave Chappelle. He's a controversial character at this point. Was a very long monologue, as we would expect, completely written by Chappelle in 4th place. And then Pedro Pascal, Rich brought up, number 5 on the list, coming in 5th place. So I could tell you, I know from my analytics here at the podcast, I mean, so many people were watching the show from all around the world for Pedro Pascal. Obviously, he was on 2 of the biggest TV shows in the world at the same time. So for me, I'm not surprised that he was here in 5th place as well. So Steve Marty, Aubrey Plaza, Keke Palmer, Dave Chappelle, and Pedro. And yeah, there you go.
Shout out to Mike DeCenzo and Jake Nordwind, by the way. Yeah. Congratulations, 3 out of 4, or 4 to 5. I can't count.
Yeah, they write all the monologues that are not written by hosts themselves. So, like, for example, Schumer and Chappelle and Woody, they all wrote their own monologues this season. So,
wait, Woody wrote his own monologue?
Yeah. Yes, he did.
It's still going on.
You can tell.
If we cut to Studio 8H, he's standing there.
He's still there.
Not surprising.
Woody, there's a strike going on.
That monologue would not have been affected by the writer's strike. I think we can all agree with that.
Yeah.
He's still at 8H.
He's still at 8H.
Woody, there's a strike going on. Do you want any snacks or anything? We're all leaving.
Just right before that last joke, it's like, okay, can we strike right now? Is this a good time? I feel like it's a good time.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So that was pretty good. Rich.
Honestly, that was their 13th reason for the WGA. They were like, we got
Yeah, they're like, we rewriters do not get paid enough.
Yeah. Woody, that monologue. Oh gosh.
If we could vote for least favorite, congratulations.
We're not.
Oh no, actually no. It goes to Brendan Gleeson by a landslide.
We're not doing this again. We 100 episodes.
We're doing arcs, John.
I feel like I'm looking at like that Millhouse and like Simpsons thing where they're like, stop hitting him, he's already dead.
Yes.
Every time you leave him alone.
Poor old Irish man.
I think I saw like a TikTok sound when someone's getting beat up, like fight back, and they're like getting their ass whooped.
Okay, let's talk about live sketches from this year. Obviously, the most critical point of the show, which is let's do it live and let's put on the best sketch we possibly can. We get, 3 or 4 or 5 of these every single week. And so there are a ton to choose from here. And, this was an interesting conversation throughout my entire time podcasting on the show, which was like, the pre-tapes were really good for a long time. The live sketches, it took a while for them to really find their footing, but I felt like we got a lot of picks this year for interesting live sketches. Amanda, I'm going to start with you on this one, though. What was your favorite live sketch, and in your review and your overall thoughts?
Lisa from Temecula. From Temecula. I have not stopped thinking about Miss Lisa since the day she appeared on my screen. I am related to Miss Lisa. She is Cecily from Kansas in my family, but she's Cecily from Wichita, technically in my family. I thought this was such both a beautiful showcase, a beautiful weird ensemble, because it very much was like one out of control, unhinged person, and then two people who were kind of in on the joke, and then two straight people. And it was like, wow, the straight man, but they're still trying to hold onto the fort. But Ego was just so beautifully unhinged. I'm talking about the first one. The second one was fine, and that's why it needed a little seasoning and needed a little spice.
Need a little salad dressing.
Like, it needed a little balsamic vinaigrette, actually.
It needed to be cooked through. You cook my meat. But like I just think it was so funny. And also like I come from like, the Carol Burnett show era of comedy. I know it's controversial to say this on this show, but I do love it at the time to time when an actor breaks. And this was the rare occasion where all the actors breaking worked because it was the timing of the evening, the timing of where the show was going. We had also come off another excellent, I think the Pedro Pascal episode in general had some of the best live sketches, because there's like the coma sketch in that episode, which is still to this day,
coma sketch.
They do not understand what it was, but it still made me laugh every time. Where it was Pedro Pascal had just come out of the coma, Heidi Gardner played his wife.
We remember.
Yeah, we remember.
I loved it. I thought it was hilarious.
Why you like that sketch? Oh. He talked like Bliss from Love Is Blind. Like, it was just unacceptable.
It's like, especially because also Barry did a similar joke like this season. So where I'm kind of like, James Austin Johnson, were you talking to Bill Hader? Because Bill, that's the only reason I think so. No one else in the cast has ever spoken to Bill Hader. No one, especially not Mikey Day. But I just think this. I don't, guys. And
wait, what? Hold on. Why is Mikey Day not? I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it in John's face. What is happening right now?
Anyway,
I thought I was supposed to be the long-winded one.
My main point is that Lisa from Temecula was a great sketch. It was one of the best character launches we've seen on the show in a very long time. And
if
also,
I can jump in on, sorry,
please.
Go ahead.
Yeah, please. No, go ahead.
I'm going to jump.
Yes,
so 2 weekends ago, my birthday, as per tradition, we go to Ruth Chris Steakhouse, New York strip steak. Tradition, we do it every year. It's one of my favorite things in the world. I am 55 years old. I am an adult. I run a business. I am a mature person. And yet at Ruth Chris Steakhouse, at this very expensive meal, every time I am cutting my steak, I am laughing like a 6-year-old because I want to do Lisa from Temecula at the Ruth Chris Steakhouse and just start clawing at the steak. Like, when you're thinking of an SNL sketch from months earlier at your birthday, you know that you've hit something right. So that was a pretty great sketch.
Rich, I thought you were going for the Will Ferrell, I drive a Dodge Stratus with all right. Well, Rich,
Dodge Stratus. Jesus.
All right, Rich, let me ask you, what were your thoughts on the live sketches this season, and do you have a pick?
I do. There was a couple that I really liked, but I think I'm going to go to the Quinta Brunson episode and the 2-car traffic altercation between Quinta and Mikey Day. With Ego being hilarious, with Chloe being hilarious. I mean, this was such a lean. It was a dumb premise that worked. It totally escalated. It was great characters. It was great writing. It was inventive for a live show, the way that they did it. Some of the side things or side jokes were really funny when Chloe's doing some hand motions and Mikey's like, I don't like that you're using 2 hands for that hand motion. I thought Quinta was so funny. To me, this was my favorite live sketch of the year.
I could not agree more. I mean, this was so great and so
I love
creative.
that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if I could toot my own car horn, just the fact that I got to talk to Mikey about this sketch and just find out the background of it was just really cool. And so it's a great addendum to watching that and then checking out the interview, because he got to tell us all about how that got put together, and amazing job that got on the air the way that it did. So a great pick, Rich. TJ, over to you for your thoughts on the live sketches this season.
Okay, so when I was going back and through the season, what I did was at first I thought about, okay, what did I remember without looking anything up? What stuck with me? And then I literally was scrolling through YouTube to see like, okay, what are the ones that if I saw the thumbnail, I'm like, oh wait, I did like that, or I say that I watched it recently. And I'll be honest, when it came to the live sketches, that was, in addition to the cold open, was kind of the weakest area for me. So Lisa from Temecula is up there. Like Amanda got that's pretty good. But I don't think I necessarily had I think all of my favorite big moments came from Weekend Update, but we're going to talk about that in a bit. So for me, in terms of live sketches, I didn't necessarily have a favorite. I just had a few that I enjoyed. But if I could only pick one, which is tough because it's between like Big Dumb Hat, Hello Kitty, and King Brothers Toyotathon.
I was hoping
Like-
you were going to say Hello Kitty here because I forgot to mention
Yeah,
it.
Hello Kitty was pretty good.
What
But I'm
a
trying to think
beautiful
like
sketch.
if I think about which one lingered with me, it's probably Big Dumb Hat because I fucking hate. I really hate those hats. And when I see them on the Wow now, I just think about Amy Schumer and this Big Dumb Hat. Like the little them saying that, it comes to my head every time I'm like walking in the city and I see someone and it's lingered. But I don't know. I'll just say King Brothers Toyotathon. Like it's so weird and it's charming and it's about fried chicken and I love fried chicken and I think it's just something so silly about like I think there's so many weird elements about it that it doesn't make sense that it's something that I would enjoy. But in terms of a sketch, I would go back to probably Keenan and Kelly. That'll probably be.
That's a pre-tape though. So wait.
You're right.
That's a pre-tape.
Yeah, it was pre-tapes and update are like what I really gravitate to. Okay, so I'll say King Brothers Toyotathon because I think I would rewatch it. I'd rewatch Lisa. Lisa's probably the top one, but if I had to pick a second, I like King Brothers Toyotathon a lot. There's a few others, but I'm going to go back to that.
All three of your picks ended up in the top 5 as per the audience.
King Brothers Toyotathon?
Yeah, it did. That was at number 5 from the
Let's
audience.
go, baby!
Yeah, so let's
great
reveal the
taste.
top 5. Yeah, so here we go. Here are our top 5 live.
That's
sketches
amazing.
from season 48. Number 1.
Oh, Jingle Pitch! I forgot. That was so
Pitch.
good.
Yeah, so number 1 was Traffic Altercation. That would be from the Quinta episode, and at 21% of the vote. Number 2 is Jingle Pitch. That's the that one from the Jenna.
That was fun.
Yeah, from the Jenna Ortega episode. So that comes in at number 2. That's a Dismukes and J.A.J., similar to King Brothers Toyota. Lisa from Temecula here at number 3 from the Pedro episode, 11% of the vote. Then Eyes, Eyes coming in here from the Brendan Gleeson episode. That would be the Sarah Sherman piece at the end of the night there, where Sarah was wearing the eyes and couldn't see what happened to her eyes. And then King Brothers Toyota comes in at number 5. I mean, there were a lot of really good sketches here. So I think, there's a ton others that obviously were voted for that could have made the list. I saw Eric in the chat mention Jewish Elvis. I really like that one. There was a lot Amanda, there were some votes for Marzipan as well. I was surprised about that. But
what?
Top 5.
What?
Yeah.
I'm thrilled for Marzipan.
Yeah, some got in there. So, yeah, but to me, this is a very solid top 5. So some good live sketches from the season. All right,
I'm just going to say this.
Go ahead.
Did the second Lisa from Temecula, is that the reason it's not at number 1? I feel like
I think so.
That had to have brought it down a little bit.
Wait, what was that? One more time?
Sorry, so I feel like Lisa from Temecula was that and like maybe like Big Boys were the two like stand out, like go beyond SNL Pete Davidson moments. Yeah. You know, I feel like that second one probably like is the only reason that soured people's memory of that amazing sketch.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Also, yeah, I absolutely agree. It's a shame that they did that. They should have waited just a little bit on that.
They should have waited to toss the salad.
All right, so let's talk about the pre-tapes from this season, which to me, there were so many good ones. I mean, I think we got one really great pre-tape out of almost every episode this season, which is hard to believe. They do such great work. And I mean, this season, I would be remiss not to bring up the fact that this season also saw the film unit at SNL finally get the contract that they deserve. So that was a big theme this season, was they could have gone on strike and then they didn't because they were able to do what they needed to do. And I love that. So a big shout out to our friends in the film unit there for all the work that they did all season long. Rich, I'm going to send it over to you to kick us off with our discussion about the pre-filmed pieces.
Well, for me, because I'm going to be anal retentive, I almost have to split this between, because this was the year that we saw not the beginning of, but really the solidification of the Please Don't Destroy guys. I mean, this was such a great year for them, and then we also had so many great pre-tapes that were not them. So, I'm going to me, they're two different things almost. I'm going to say, though, there's so many good pre-tapes, but to me, my favorite pre-tape, because it was both so subtle and also so dumb, was the Waffle House pre-tape with Jenna Ortega. I mean, just this beautiful, just the dumbest comedy going on in the background of a very straight played scene in the foreground was just gorgeous. I thought this was so done so well done by everybody in it, including Jenna Ortega, who just had to be the straight person while all this pandemonium was going on behind them. And the shout out to John's interview with Mikey Day, how they put that together was so interesting to hear after the fact. But there's a lot to pull from, but that's what I'm going to say was my favorite outside of the PDD sketches. That was my favorite pre-tape of the season.
Yeah, and it's definitely a good thing to talk about Please Don't Destroy a little bit separately than it is the rest of them, because they are such a different thing. PDD basically had their own element on the show this year, and I found that fascinating because last year they were showing up once every 3 episodes pretty much. Now we had episodes or strings of like 6 or 7 episodes in a row where we got PDD shorts this year, so they are such an ingrained part of the show. I do wonder if that blurs them together, like almost like digital shorts, where it's like you remember all the ones that really pop, but then you don't remember the other 80 of them too much unless you go on a roll. But either way, I do think they put up some really great work, as Rich said here. And of course, the other pre-tapes, there were so many good ones. So Amanda, what do you think? Any pre-tapes stand out to you?
So many. I mean, going Waffle House, yes, but I loved Road Trip personally a little bit more. I thought Road Trip was just, I know people said they thought it was a little too long. I thought it was the perfect length of ridiculousness in jumping forward into absurdity. TJ mentioned Keenan and Kelly. I will let him wax poetic about that in a second. Bridesmaid cult documentary was.
Oh yes.
I thought about it for a week after that. It was so good, so tight. And I mean, I like Black Lotus, I talked about already before, but I really, really want to give a lot of credit just to the props team and the visuals team at SNL, because just for Mario Kart, because that to do that in a week and to turn it around was just like, it was a beautiful sketch and all of that. So those are my favorites, but definitely a great season for just cold opens for
pre-tapes, yeah,
or shorts. And it's been a long day, y'all. Thank you, I really appreciate it. Thank you for filling in the blanks. I'm so tired.
No problem. All right, TJ, let's head over to you for your favorite pre-tapes and overall thoughts on them this season.
I can't echo like Amanda and Rich's picks enough into Waffle House, excellence. Bridesmaids Cult, like excellent. Like I think PDD, like in terms of what I was writing out, it was Update First that got a lot of stuff that I remembered, and then it was a lot of pre-tapes. And I did see Keenan and Kelly, but that's because my dumbass, for some reason, I know it wasn't a live sketch, but when I was thinking about like what was a big moment that stuck out for me, I think I just wasn't thinking, and I typed that out. It
also looked like a live sketch. It was like one set. I know why you thought that.
It was shot like a live sketch.
It was shot like a live sketch.
That's true. It was shot like a live sketch.
It wasn't multiple locations and stuff like that. You're right.
Yeah, and it was in my memory. Like I forgot. Yeah.
That's what Keenan and Kelce looked like.
Yeah, it was on a live studio audience. Yeah, but if we're thinking about the pre-tapes, I think for me, and I love that Amanda mentioned Black Lotus, because that one I love coming back to. But it's also because I've seen the Black Lotus. I've seen SNL do Black Jeopardy. So it's those two voices of like of having seen that show and having seen like how SNL does, like it just works together. That's great and all. However, and that was on my list. But if I'm gonna think about what is the one I'm gonna recommend to other people? Like what am I gonna recommend to my boss who doesn't watch SNL? And it's gonna be something that they can relate to. And who do people relate to? Who do people know? The State Farm guy. So for me, Jake from State Farm came in strong. I have mentioned that sketch to so many people because who doesn't? If there's two things that like are very like people can understand, it's State Farm commercials and infidelity. And if that doesn't bring together, if that doesn't say America, I don't know what does. But like it was definitely like the State Farm. I think also Big Boys, but Big Boys I'm more biased because I am a big boy. Sorry, I'm Slim Thick. I identify as Slim Thick actually, but like.
Sure. That
also burst through the zeitgeist, and I thought it was really, really catchy. And I'm also going to give 2 honorable mentions to Wing Pit, the sketch where they're just like flooding people with wings. It's really funny actually because I just ate wings before I came to the program. I'm a big wing eater. I'm not a Super Bowl person, but I thought the absurdness of that sketch was really fun. And then also the NFL Gives Back. I can't believe an athlete made it into my favorite picks, but Kelce did some good sketch work that episode. And the NFL Gives Back, because I'm a guy. I like my partner Heather. Like, I like picking her up. I like picking up people. It's a thing I like to do for people I care about. And so just kind of seeing that like idea, and then like how the women took it and ran with it about like wanting to be thrown and tossed, and like I something about that and the sentiment I've seen of like people I've known. Like I think just for me, like really killed me. I really enjoyed that. Oh, also the Christmas Epiphany and Christmas Carol, those the Austin Butler and the Martin Short one. I thought those were two pretty good Christmas sketches as well.
Yeah, let me just also say, so a couple notes about the things you said. One is the Wing Pit sketch, really cool element where that was in the Pedro Pascal episode, but then in the, I think it was the Travis Kelce episode, they had a set that had the Wing Pit logo in it. So it was like fun that they were drop, and there was that runner there. Also, the NFL Goes Back, great pre-tape. That did not air live. So that was like not it's not canon. So I just want to just be clear, because I know that some of our listeners are sticklers about stuff like that. Great sketch. Great
thank
pre-tape,
you.
But
I was
just point out as well.
I was at like an event. I think I was traveling, so I couldn't catch the episode until like the next morning. Yeah, and so I think I watched everything on YouTube because I was traveling, and I didn't realize it wasn't a piece of the show, because I think they dropped that immediately after the show finished airing, like an hour. So to somebody like me, I had no clue it wasn't part of the show. But definitely Jake from State Farm. Can
I do a couple of shout outs, because I didn't get to do other shout outs? I mean, Colo Guard made me laugh hard with Woody Harrelson. That was great. Straight Male Friend from the Travis Kelce I thought was great. The COVID, why you want to get COVID to get away from your family. And I thought, and from music videos, the We Got Brought with Megan Thee Stallion was so relatable and so funny. The show, and even at the beginning of the season, the AMC theater just making fun of that crazy AMC. That was just
the Be Real with Miles Teller.
The Be Real was great. It was really great.
That AMC commercial was like a spiritual, like I had a spiritual reaction to that, because I see like all the Marvel movies when they open and stuff, and I've been seeing a few of the big blockbusters, and I really enjoy that. I am one of those people that I go and see it opening weekend. I'm in the theater. I like going to the theater. I'm there a lot. So when I tell you that lately I've been going to a lot of AMCs because they were just the ones that were nearby. And I have since decided to stop going to AMCs. I'm trying to go to other theaters. But like when I tell you, I'd seen that like Nicole Kidman ad, because I saw like 4 Marvel movies in 6 months and a few other films, and I was so sick of seeing this white woman who I didn't know who she was until 2022. So for the first year, I'm just seeing this random woman that I know is supposed to be famous in these commercials. So when Chloe came in and did that, I laughed my butt off, because I love that someone poking fun at those ads. I can't stand that we are now being advertised to go to the movies when we're already at the movie. So I really appreciated like them making fun of that. That for me was.
Speaking wonderful. Of, I mean, check out all of our podcasts while you're watching this podcast. But yes,
midway through the podcast, can you imagine that? Like telling someone.
But yeah, I totally agree. There's a lot of really great ones, and I saw that in the voting here, because there was a clear winner of best pre-tape of the season, I think.
Wait, hold on, John. What was yours? What was your favorite pre-tape?
I mean, my favorite was the number 1 pick on the board here by far, which was Waffle House, as we'll see. That one just, to me was one of the best things that they produced on the show in years. And really, this is like a best of the decade type of pre-tape that they produced. And then we didn't talk about this one, but I love this one. I mean, at the time that it aired, it was so funny to me. I think we posted a video on our YouTube channel, like Best of the Fall, A Christmas Carol from the Steve Martin and Martin Short episode, where the coins and everything, and everybody's bleeding, and then Tiny Tim goes down the sewer. So that comes in second place here at 12%. Keenan and Kelly, we talked about from the Keke Palmer episode, that's at 10%. Mario Kart, I mean, the production level on that from the Pedro Pascal episode was just unreal. It was just so crazy. And then A Christmas Epiphany, and I really do want to show this one out because I really love this. This was from the Austin Butler episode. This was an Andrew Dismukes piece that he put together and got on the show. And, like I said, we'll talk about Dismukes a little bit more next week. And I do feel like this was an indication of just like his ability to write and produce something. And I really want him to get more opportunities like this because it was such a good pre-tape. So, as you'll see in some of the data we're posting from our top 5 of the pre-tapes, there was a lot that people chose. So it was really spread out among many episodes full of pre-tapes. So great job.
how about Mikey Day writing 4 out of 5 of these? Like Mikey, sorry for the audio listener, Mikey Day is listed as one of the writers on 4 out of 5 of these sketches.
Amazing.
Like he has had a beautiful,
he's killing
year.
it.
Really just ate up
Like a wonderful year.
Devoured
Like these are phenomenal sketches. Like that were like, oh gosh, phenomenal work. Man, they make some good stuff at SNL.
Absolutely. All right. Well, one element to the show that we have not talked about yet is Weekend Update. So another year for Jost and Shay at the desk. People weren't sure if they were going to be coming back or not. But I want to talk about, overall thoughts on their season and then the features. So we had a lot of people drop by the desk, including all of the new players this season. And some of our veterans came out and did some really fun characters. So let's do overall thoughts on Weekend Update plus your favorite Weekend Update feature. TJ, starting with you on this one.
Okay, I had so many weekend. I'm not going to say all of them, but Weekend Update was the easiest one. I realized, oh wow, this is my favorite segment. So for me, this felt like this year was the return of Heidi doing original characters. Like, she did her utility player thing. She came back to the Weekend Update desk. I feel like strong, even bringing back other characters like Angel. So for me, the top update pick that I enjoyed thoroughly. I loved coming to the update desk this year. I thought we got some amazing things. I think the Debbie Hole and Stacey Bussey, the two women who like sold a lot of leggings or yoga pants in order to get on to get on SNL. I've come back to that sketch a few times. I think that was in the Megan episode, seeing Heidi and Chloe work together. I felt like there was just something magic unlocked there that I was like, I want to see more of these two working together. I love what they did. Chloe's like getting possessed by the devil. Like I thought there was so much silliness that I really enjoyed. Speaking of Heidi, I also loved Aunt Pat. I know Mikey may not have loved Aunt Pat, but I thought Aunt Pat was really funny. And also for me, the Leslie Knope, like coming back when April Ludgate, when Aubrey Plaza was on, it was another moment because I was there in the building that I was screaming at I was screaming at the top of my lungs that that Heather later told me that like she could feel the seats move because I was jumping up and down so excitedly in my seat when she came. Like I was just like so happy. And just a special shout out to there's a lot here, but I think some other people are going to touch on it. Special shout out to anally entering each other. Oh, I'm sorry. The Peppa Pig fan, the Sarah character. Like there was something so cartoony about how Sarah looks when she's doing. I've gone back and watched that one a few more times too. I think it's still funny. The way she's panically talking about anally entering each other. Like I think there's something so fun. Like how she tried it. Like I think it's a great sketch. There's also something big from Weekend Update here, but I think John or Rich, like you but one of you can have it. But I also think it was a great piece as well. But someone's clearly going to say it.
Well, maybe Amanda will say it because I'm going to go to her next for her thoughts on Weekend Update this year.
I have to ruminate on my thoughts. Go to Rich next.
All right, Rich.
Last.
I've pre-ruminated, so that's good. Yeah, I mean, everything that TJ said was great. So many great sketches. Great to see Heidi, even coming back at the end. Crystal, the co-worker who's extremely busy doing seemingly nothing. How great was that? Just in performance, not even in writing, just pure performance. I mean, but boy, Black Ariel was so great. I mean, but Sarah News, I mean, I would say Sarah News was really the beginning of something special and the beginning of a great relationship at the Weekend Update desk, which is more important than just a feature, but the relationship between a feature and the update. I think that was really strong. But for me, my spirit animal, this is just my age. It was the return of Drunk Uncle.
I know. See, that's the one.
That was my Christmas gift. I could have just called it right there. That made me happier more than anything else.
Yeah, that was so fantastic. We also got to talk to Bobby Moynihan this season in a great interview as well, where he got to tell us all about what it was like to come back, how he got the call, and just being back in the building. So that was a fantastic moment from the Jack Harlow episode earlier this year. Amanda, have you ruminated enough? Are you ready to go?
Yes, I've marinated, I've ruminated, okay, right. I've digested, I've processed. I mean, like notoriously, I have been a Weekend Update hater on this podcast.
Really?
It's not that I'm a hater. I just like kind of use it to go like I don't need to be actively watching the screen. So it's usually when I go to like brush my teeth and wash my face. But like I still enjoyed it. like, and again, like you guys said, this was Heidi's weekend update season. And it was also moments, because we didn't see as much of Bowen this season as we have in previous years. I think like Bowen took a step back. I think everyone kind of took a step back. I think also Bowen was filming the Aquafina show. So I think that also kind of comes into play here now. But definitely, I think Jafar, gay Jafar was a great moment. Drunk Uncle was a great moment. Just when was it the episode with Jenna Ortega when it was just James Austin Johnson getting to do just the run of character? Like,
I love that one. That's what turned me over to him.
I was so happy when to be on this podcast after that episode, because I love talking about that, because all of us were like, give me more of this, give me more of much like we love when a show gets a little meta. It's like I love kind of watching the development of this character work, or when they take this character work and you remind them, it's like, oh no, these characters don't get developed like in a vacuum in like the basement of Studio 8H. Like they're out and probably in public doing these impressions in front of their friends, and they're like, my friends are tired of hearing me do this. I have a whole audience who I can now sit and watch me play around the characters, and I really liked that. I think that like in general, Weekend Update's always just my favorite part is when you get to see little bits and bobs and when people come back. But also happy to see Bobby Moynihan always on my television. I love him. So yeah, good job. Good weekend.
I really want to give a special shout out to Molly's flying piece as well. And not so much for like strong punch of the humor, but that was one of my, like, I don't think there's a ton of SNL moments that have a heart for me that usually stick with me. That's one. Like that one like got me, and I was like, I dig this. I love what you're doing. Younger people need to see this kind of message while also having a human being flying around in the rafters. I think it was such like a well done piece. And I like it when it's done also well with good entertainment value. And I feel like they were able to really like bring that together well. I also want to give a shout out to Bowen at the beginning of the season coming on the bug. I can't remember. They were like infected. Not infected.
The Lanternfly.
Yeah, they were all over the place last summer.
Yeah.
Them, Longfellow as Dilbert, and then also lastly,
Dilbert. Yes.
Was Heidi as the mom as Gina Biaggi.
Oh my God,
the mom
so
who
great.
Wants to sleep with her son. If I would, I could. Like if I think about things that are going to be in a YouTube playlist, like a couple of actually a lot of these are going to be in there. So
I do want to say, as the only son with two sisters, I didn't totally follow the humor of that. It seemed very accurate to me.
So I have a sister, and my sister is often, or like she told me as we've gotten older, she's told me that she thinks that my mom likes me as the favorite, which I'm like, no, that's ridiculous, But as I've gotten older and I've kind of looked back on it, I think she's right. And that's not for me that's not me saying like I want that. It's me saying I can see that like the treatment was like a little different for the two of us. And so while it's not nowhere near as extreme as Heidi, I can kind of see like, oh, there's some cases where for some reason, I don't know, like you just might be sweeter to like, I don't know, Amanda, you're a daughter. Like, I don't know if you have siblings. Like,
yeah,
I know for myself.
I'm the only girl and the youngest of three.
Okay,
how do you feel about it? My energy.
Oh, you do got a little sibling energy.
My parents absolutely kept trying until they got a girl and she was perfect. Come on, come on. I 100% am my parents' favorite. I'm also the one that my family's the most afraid of. So
why are they afraid of you?
I'm the shortest member of my family. I'm 5 foot.
Aren't you tall?
Yeah, I'm 5'8". My oldest sibling is 5. My oldest sibling is 6'8". My middle brother is 6'5", and my mom is 5'8.5", and my dad is 6'2". Yeah, I'm the shortest of my family.
All right, well, before we get too off track,
I had to be loud to make up for something, because that's my main point. I had to be big to be heard somehow.
Yeah, I just also want to say, I don't want to miss the opportunity.
A bear, making yourself large. Sorry, John.
I don't want to miss the opportunity to play this from Heidi, of course.
He's done. You're done.
One of the great lines.
Yeah, I think that's such a great line. Like I think, the delivery of that, like alone, makes the whole thing for me.
No,
you're done.
we have to do best sound clip of the season next year, so we'll do that as well.
Oh yeah.
Also,
that'd be
I
great.
want to go back to Molly for just one quick second. I do want to talk about when they played the lieutenant governor from Tennessee.
Oh yeah, that was cute.
I just really love when SNL like really points out the hypocrisy of politicians and things like that. Like when Melissa McCarthy playing Sean Spicer, that same level of like they're bigoted, and so the way we're going to get under their skin the most is by leaning into their bigoted side and playing it for humor, because that's it's both going to infuriate them, but also it's kind of shining a light to how absurd their behavior is. So good for Molly. I love them, and I'm glad to see them just have had a great time on Weekend Update this season.
Totally agree.
Was Molly in the rafters? Was that Armas or was that Shannon?
Yeah, that was
That was Armas.
Yeah, so that's how they went out of the season, which I think that's incredible. You know, to go out, like maybe not for the whole show, but like
went out in the rafters.
Molly will still be up there when the writer strike's over.
Yeah.
Check in on Molly. Are they okay?
let's go to Rich quickly, and then we'll bring up the best from the audience.
Well, you know what? I was actually going to talk about Che and Jost. Do you want to do the audience first, and then we'll talk about that?
So let's do that. Yeah, let's bring up the top 5 from the audience for features this season. And first, number 1 was Michael Longfellow's first appearance on Weekend Update. People were loving everything Michael Longfellow brought to the update desk this season. So his first appearance on there was super strong. Came out. I mean, that was a really big deal from episode 1. That's one of the main things.
Especially coming out of Pete Davidson leaving, and where he had that first run on Weekend Update. It was really, really great. Yeah.
Yeah, then number 2 comes in with the Chappelle episode. That would be Sarah News. So this was a piece that was cut and then ended up getting on eventually. And it was a great way for Sarah to interact with Colin Jost, as we talked about. So that was really fun. Another Michael Longfellow piece here, Punxsutawney Phil from the Pedro Pascal
forgot about this, and it was perfect.
Yeah, I thought it was really
so
good.
funny.
Right.
Kathy Ann does not belong here. Like, that is unacceptable.
Well, I think Kathy Ann coming in at 4th here was mostly because this was Cecily Strong's departure to the show. So that's where people felt like it was the best update feature. Do I think it was in quality? Definitely not. But I think that some people watch SNL for the moments, and I think that definitely hit on a big moment from the season. And then we mentioned Trish Dale from the Keke Palmer episode as well, and that would be Sarah Sherman's piece. So those are our top 5 from best update feature. I also just want to shout out one we didn't talk about, which was James Austin Johnson and Devin Walker as Millie Pounds and Shirley, the British rappers. They were allergic to dairy.
I did not get that one.
I loved it.
That was great for me.
Much. When we talked about it, truly, I was like, John, I would marry both. I know both of these men. I've dated both of these men. Like, I know them very much.
Yeah.
They live in Brooklyn.
All right, Rich, tell us what you think about Change House season.
So, I was going to say what's the reverse of a compliment sandwich? 3 thoughts, which is 1, I mean, these guys are now so seasoned and so sharp that the writing for them is so strong. The characters which is their point of view, has been so strong. I thought so many of the jokes hit so hard this year. Really, really funny. I will say number 2, the only time that I get a little bit down when I'm watching SNL is when I'm watching a cast member that I think doesn't want to be there as much as I want to be there. And I definitely experienced that during Weekend Update this season. And I wonder, as great as they are, if maybe it's time to move on so that the people sitting at the desk are as excited to be there as I want them to be. But thirdly, I will say one of my favorite...
is that in reference to Jost or Che?
Che. I thought that there were times, and I don't know, Michael, I could be reading him wrong. I felt like there were times where, as great, I don't think he ever phoned it in. I thought his performance was perfect, but I felt like at the opening and closing, there are times I felt like, I think he's getting a little bored, and he's been doing it long enough that I would understand, but I would hope that if he is getting bored, he goes on and does something else that challenges him, excites him, and give the seat to somebody who desperately wants it more than they want oxygen. And I hope that we get that. And I could be wrong. That's how I read it. I will say, though, that said, one of the great meta moments was when, for reasons that made no sense, Colin Jost was getting no laughs, and it was because it was April Fool's, and Michael Che told the whole audience not to laugh at him. And that was the fun between the two of them that I hadn't experienced in a while. That was one of my favorite meta moments.
I think that was an all-time moment from this season, and definitely it doesn't, easily fit into a certain category for an award setting, but it was just a fantastic moment. That would be like on every highlight reel from season 48. So that was really great there. TJ, did you want to say something about the pairing?
I still really like them. I'm okay if they do try to change things up, but like I've enjoyed them thoroughly, and I think they both like. I don't think one. I think of course one works out of the other. Colin could do it by himself if he wanted to, but there's something so strong about like. I feel like if you don't have Che, then Colin's just Colin's not milquetoast. He's not milquetoast at all. He's very cool, but it's just I don't know. I don't think it has that same kind of bringing it down. And I think if you had just Che, as much as I love Che, and I would love to see that, I'm also a masochist. So like I just like to see chaos. I'm exaggerating, but I think there's balance there. But like Thanos also wanted balance, and he wanted the end of the universe. So maybe it's time for something different other than just balance. But I'm cool if they're there for a few more years, as long as I'm still laughing. Like really, Update was my favorite. Like when I was just off the cuff, like no thinking about it or no looking at anything, that was my favorite part of the show. And so for me, this still really works. And the minute it starts not like the minute it becomes Cecily, like kind of in the last year or two, that's what I'm like, all right, but like, nah, I think they're doing great.
Well, here's the interesting thing, right? So if they wanted to leave the show, season 49 is interesting because they wouldn't necessarily, you would think they wouldn't leave after the season because they didn't get any goodbye, right? It was cut short. So you think they were going to come back for season 49, probably to have that final season. But then you're getting really close to season 50. And being the Update anchors during season 50 is a really big boost to viewership and, potentially projects that might happen after the show, getting to collaborate with all types of legendary performers. I have a feeling they're going to be around for a few more seasons because circumstantially. So
I think the strike screwed them a little bit. Like they could have bowed out.
I think it's a factor. And you have to think back to all of the cast members who said they would have left pre-COVID had COVID not happened. I do think that we may have had a loss here or two in between 48 and 49 that we may not be getting now. Okay, so I want to talk hosts and I want to talk cast member MVPs. Before we do that, there was a couple of other categories that, Rich, I know that you said you wanted to just touch on briefly. So did you end up picking a 10-1 sketch that you really liked?
I did. I mean, I love the 10-1 sketches. Ironically, we've mentioned most of my favorites just as great sketches. I mean, Lisa from Temecula it was just this moment that it transcended comedy. It was just so fun to have that moment that was, and to me, it was a Debbie Downer moment, but King Brothers Toyota was just fantastic. God, yes. And it was like when you see a pairing and you go, oh, Dismukes and James Austin Johnson, like, oh my God, do that again. And Big Dumb Hat, while I will say anyone that I am married to that has a large hat looks gorgeous. This sketch itself was hilarious. I thought that was really, so a lot of fun 10-1, but boy, Lisa from Temecula was a transcendent moment for me, which we already talked about.
Yeah, so it's interesting because the 10-1 category is something that would be brought up in other seasons a little bit more, where you feel like somebody on the cast is specifically positioned to be in the last sketch of the night. We don't have that as much anymore, but Dismukes and JAJ sketches together would certainly apply. And I think Sarah Sherman with Eyes in the Gleason episode is another good example of a great 10-1 sketch. So those are the types of things that we may look forward to in 49. And then Rich, earlier in the night, you brought up PDD as having their own shorts. Was there a PDD pre-tape for you that you felt like was the PDD pre-tape award winner for season 48?
It's interesting because I loved Road Trip as much as Amanda did. I thought as a pre-tape, it was one of my favorites. But to me, I loved the wellness sketch that they did in the Megan Thee Stallion episode, because to me, it was the most PDD, three guys sitting in the writer's room, just taking a dumb idea, escalating it, super simple. You could tell it was cut on Final Cut Pro in their office in 15 minutes. And I thought that was so great. I thought that was such a funny sketch.
Yeah, there was a lot of really great ones, like we said, this season from PDD, but yeah,
Flirts was great. I was debating that in Flirts because that was also great.
Flirts was really good.
Yeah, I like the Tommy one as well from the Gleason episode. I thought that was a good one. I like the stakeout one too. I mean, there was a lot of really good ones this season. So
but he has a whole family.
Yeah,
he has a whole ass family.
So great. And then, we look forward also to a PDD movie coming out in November. So that could be something that we will see as we get into season 49 talk. Okay, I want to talk. Go ahead, TJ.
Can we do just a special shout out to a couple musical guests?
Let's do that at the end, if that's okay. If you don't mind, let's talk. I want to talk the hosts, and so because I know that a lot of people in the audience are definitely going to want to, in our chat tonight, are going to want to talk about their favorite host from the season. So we did put out a post this week and asked, who is your host MVP for the season? So you could think about it that way, who the most valuable host was of the season, or you could sort of think about who your favorite host was. But we had 19 hosts this season, Steve and Mari together. But we had we talked about lots of diverse hosts, lots of different types of hosts. For me, I think this was a really fun host selection across the board. TJ, let's get your pick for your favorite host of the season.
I know what Amanda's pick is going to be, but I am going to steal it from her because I already said it. I think for me, it's Keke Palmer. Like, she came in, crushed it. Like, and on top of like the big zeitgeistness of like a pregnancy announcement, to do all that while like pregnant and like be a champ and also be as excellent as she was. And I think some of the most consistent, like, I think that's her and maybe like Pedro Pascal and maybe even Travis Kelce. Like, I think they had like some of the most consistent like batches of sketches like in an episode. So she was excellent.
Amanda.
Yes, it is Lauren Kiana Palmer without through and through with my whole chest. I love that woman so much. And note, I would like to say Rihanna at the Super Bowl did that while pregnant, and look at Lauren Kiana Palmer, what she did while pregnant on SNL. I'm just saying. And she had less time to prepare. I'm just saying you can do a lot. But also like Molly Shannon, I need to give props to returning and coming back and just having having fun. I'm loving this like third era of her career where she's just Critics' Choice like queen. We're happy to see her. She's just back on our screen being joyful and having fun. And also I was waffling between Aubrey Plaza and Pedro, and I'm leaning towards Pedro just because Pedro was having more fun. And I think my favorite episodes of this show are when the host is just clearly here to have a good time and here to have fun and just do something that's maybe not like something they get to do every single day.
Okay, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, don't disagree with what's been said. I definitely am going Pedro Pascal. I thought that he brought an essence that was just, it transcended the show. It was such a fun episode. Every sketch was fun. He was great in every episode. A lot of memorable stuff. And I can say that about a few other people, but I thought that he was, for me, number one.
Yeah, and he was number one for the audience as well. People loved Pedro Pascal. I mean, obviously, he has a huge following, and 23% of the vote went to Pedro Pascal as our host MVP for season 48. Number two was Quinta Brunson at 13% of the vote. She was fantastic, obviously, as you would expect, coming off of Abbott Elementary and just being so great. Keke Palmer, to me, I really felt like Keke Palmer, who was tied for third place here. Keke Palmer was actually, I'm going to say that's those numbers are wrong. She was in third place. Keke Palmer was so great. I felt coming out of that episode, if any host this season could really be a cast member and fit in seamlessly, it was Keke Palmer from that. So 12% of the vote went to Keke. In fourth place was Steve and Marty coming in together to host the show. So obviously, whatever we were going to get from them was going to be extremely memorable. And then Aubrey Plaza in fifth place here, 7%. So really strong, solid hosts from this season. All right, TJ, let me go to you for a couple of musical guests that you want to mention.
I'm not going to make it long. I'm just going to say I thought we had a lot of really great music this season. I thought Kendrick Lamar at the top of the season was excellent as always. He's a fantastic rapper. But also somebody who I think recently has become my favorite musical guest, of just one of my favorite SNL musical guests, Lizzo. I mean, just again coming in, I think to replace the Yeah Yeahs who were booked. I think she was a replacement booking. I thought she just did another excellent show. And Jack Harlow, as much as I mix him on some of his songs, definitely really enjoyed his live performance as well. So there was some other great stuff. I think Brandi Carlile, who I'm not into her music, I thought she did really great in her live performance as well. So some great musical artists this season.
I would like to add on and say that edition of Fix You that with Jacob Collier that Coldplay did will live rent free in my brain. That's one of those songs. I was always I don't know why it gives me all kinds of feelings, and that version made me. I was like, oh, there it is. There's all the feelings that I didn't know I needed to. It was a beautiful rendition, and also congratulations to SZA for really that SNL Gen Z little like, you know, sometimes Gen Z is a little issue with SNL. Congratulations making it to an SNL TikTok sound for what I truly believe might be the first time in a really long time. Like John might have to check on that. I don't know, but
was also the ski your ski that was also a TikTok sound as well.
Yeah,
really big one.
Yeah, but as far as a musical sketch, probably the first time really since The Lonely Island that there's been like a music video that's permeated
that's
the show.
Really, and that's what SNL wants. Like they want to make it over to TikTok. So I'm very, very proud of them for that. Oh, and also Sam Smith, thank you for weirdly putting Sharon Stone on my screen for 5 minutes, and we were all like, okay.
And I'll just shout out. I mean, this was just for me, but thank you, Kelce Ballerini, for being on the season. It was just fantastic. Rich, any musical guest shout out to you? I know we didn't ask you in advance, but
I remember when Coldplay was new. I'm old. My shout out is just to my shout out is that SNL stays relevant. I mean, I love that. I don't know any of these people, and yet we watch every musical and I love. This is for the Gen Xers, whatever I am. I don't even know anymore. It's a chance to see what's current. It's great. I love that it's not music of my generation still being brought on because they're friends with Lorne Michaels or because whatever. They've got a best of retrospective.
In an alternate universe, we would have the Foo Fighters on this weekend. So
good point. Yes. Hey, I remember when the drummer from Nirvana was starting a band and playing guitar, and that sounded ridiculous to me. So that's how old I am. But yeah, I just overall a great performances.
Did the Jonas Brothers see Jenna Ortega's Waffle House sketch and decide to do Waffle House on their?
I really wanted that. I really wanted that.
I'm not alone.
No, I asked Mikey Day about that, and he said, well, I mean, obviously they didn't, but I'm saying, I said to him, I was like, why didn't you just do your Waffle House character as a walk-in in the background of them performing Waffle House? And he was like, oh yeah, that would have been good.
I just SNL has had a big impact on, I'm a big music person. I really enjoy music. I'm actually DJing a dance in a few days. And so SNL has had a big influence on kind of me just wanting to try things that I might kind of roll my eyes at first. And Japanese Breakfast, King Princess are a couple of artists that I think that because of them being on SNL kind of made me think oh, who are these people? And Casey Musgraves is another one that I'm oh wow, they're making some fantastic stuff, and I've become a fan because of the show. So I love whoever's picking the music. I love it because it allows me to try something, even if it's Coldplay.
All right, let's get to our final award of the night, which will be our cast member MVP of the season. And every roundtable, we were with you all season long to talk about the episode MVP. And I just want to thank everybody who's voted in our polls. It really helps improve the quality of our show. This time, we asked, who is your season-long MVP from the cast? And Rich Tackenberg, I'm going to start with you. Who is your cast member MVP?
It is, I love to say this is the first year where it's really hard to pick somebody. I mean, this was such a balanced season that there wasn't someone who really stood out for me. So I'm really struggling to pick someone. I've changed it 4 times over the course of this episode. But for what sticks in my brain afterwards, I'm going to use TJ's metric, not going sketch by sketch and saying who delivered the most, but the person who stuck in my brain the most was Sarah Sherman. The person who I feel overall contribution was the backbone is Mikey Day. But I think I got to go Sarah. I think that while not in volume, she made the biggest impression that when I look back and think about funny moments from the season.
Amanda, what about you?
I'm truly my brain is just going all over the place trying to decide this. It's just really, really hard. I would like to break it into the pre-Cecily and post-Cecily.
Okay.
On 30 Rock where it was the photo shedder and the photo scanner, and it was which one is which and same side, same thing. Pre-Cecily, Heidi. Post-Cecily, Ego. I think.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. TJ, let's get your pick.
Yeah, I was gonna agree with Rich that it is Mikey. I think with like Heidi kind of close on the heels. I think for any episode that Cecily wasn't in, I feel like Heidi was pretty there. And also, I think the ego shout out is completely appropriate. She's she's a fucking star.
Well, look, believe it or not, some people actually have different definitions of most valuable player when it comes to sports or whatever, competition that you think of. Some people think MVP equals the best cast member, and that could be your criteria for MVP. I personally look at it as the most valuable player in terms of if you were to take that person out of the show, which is the biggest loss for the season. And to me, that is Mikey Day.
I agree.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
For
Under
sure.
that standard, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I think if you take Mikey Day out of the season, the overall quality of the season drops. Does that mean Mikey's going to do the same thing in 49? Not necessarily, but just purely for this season, Mikey Day to me was my most valuable player from the season. But let's see how the audience voted on our final MVP poll for season 48. And winning this one is Ego Wono coming in first place, 23% of the vote. So obviously Lisa from Temecula was hugely popular. I think about the Exorcist sketch that she did from earlier this season. I mean, that was great as well. I think Ego always makes a huge impact when she's on the screen. So I'm not surprised that she got so many votes. Mikey Day comes in here at number 2, 18% of the vote. Sarah Sherman at 12% of the vote. We were on probably right before the holidays. We were talking about, is this Sarah's moment where she's going to take over the show? I don't think that happened, but I do think that she still had some really strong episodes here and there, and I think she was a very solid part of the season. SNL is much better for it, having her in their cast, so that makes sense. Bowen Yang is an interesting case to evaluate here. This is a cast member who everybody thought was going to take over the show once all the departures finished last year. I don't know if that was the case either, but I do think he had his moments as well, especially, we talked about the Chinese spy balloon, some stuff he did on Update Jafar. There's a lot of really good stuff from Bowen. And of course, we could not do MVP without JAJ, who is the MVP, obviously, of all of the cold opens and put in some other great work. Seeing him carry a sketch alone this season, he had a 10-1 sketch at the beginning of 2023 at the end of the night. That was really, really strong. He also did a bunch of stuff with Dismuke. So he comes in 5th here for cast member MVP for season 48. All right.
I look at that list just to say, in wrapping this up, you think about all the amazing people we lost this year, all the people who stepped this year. To me, the theme is always the same, which is the star of Saturday Night Live continues to be Saturday Night Live. That this is a show that when people come to play and they bring their A game, we are not dependent on any one person, any one writer, any one cast member. And that's what makes the show so enduring to me.
Yeah. I totally agree. And with that being said, the final thing we're going to do here today is turn our attention towards season 49 and just say what we're most looking forward to seeing next year. The hope is that we're going to start on time and everything will be cleared up with the writer's strike, but we'll be there whenever the season kicks off. I would expect September 30th, 2023. So we're actually headed into the longest break without Saturday Night Live since 1988. So it's been it'll be a very long time that SNL won't be on the air. And with that long break, I am so excited to get the show back and continue the momentum. So I'd love to go around the panel, get one final thought on what they're looking forward to for the fall. So Amanda, can I start with you on this one? What are your thoughts for next season?
I'm just excited to see what little magic comes out of this boat. I don't see it becoming a Titanic situation. It can't be, but I can absolutely see it becoming a Titanic, the musical about Celine Dion, magic, like level magic. I really loved this season, and this is really a lot for me to say, considering like there's been full seasons of the show. I was like, yikes. So I think they found a really good sweet spot with everything happening here. I hope nothing changes. I hope the dynamic doesn't shift like with the cast members or anything. They don't really even need to add anyone new, in my opinion. Like that would be kind of weird to me. But yeah, I think the show's in a good place, and I'm actually like kind of bummed that we're missing out on these last 3 episodes and like that we're not getting a proper finale. And I'm hoping that they bring Jennifer Coolidge back for our season premiere.
They better.
That's give the people what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Give people what they want.
Mm-hmm. Toss my salad.
Yeah, TJ.
Cut my meat. Cook my meat.
TJ, take the baton and tell us what you're looking forward to in season 49.
I mean, a show coming back. But like, when I'll be honest, like I'm just having. I think this is large in part to doing the show. I'm just having so much fun watching the show. Like the Saturday Night Network has reinvigorated me actually wanting to watch this live and not just watching on Peacock the next day. And while I look forward to the fact that since the show has ended early, I can cancel my Peacock subscription tomorrow until September. What else is
after you watch Bupkis?
After I watch Buckets, I can cancel that knowing that there's nothing else
to our friends at NBC and Peacock. He's just joking.
No,
NBC and Peacock, please. I will take his membership if you give it to me for free.
But all seriousness aside, like, you know, doing this program has like a kind of not reinvigorated, but it's also added to my enjoyment of the show. It's like watching it with like, even before I met Heather, like watching it with friends. Actually, we watch it live the past year or two, and so I'm just looking forward to more of that. Like, I wish I had a big complicated answer, but like this show, especially after doing this podcast, is just more fun for me. It's a reason for me to be up on a Saturday night, to just like have a little something to laugh at. Like, even if there's like, I really hate when people say like the show isn't funny. Like, I think that sounds so stupid because like you hear people laughing in the audience. It just means it's not funny to you. For myself, like, even if I don't vibe with a particular sketch, there's still something there that's going to make me chuckle. I at least laugh at Jay and Joe's joke, even on a Woody Harrelson and Brendan Gleeson episode. I'm still gonna like laugh at something and have some enjoyment. So I'm really just I'm hoping that Heidi sticks around. You know, I'm hoping that Ego goes bigger, and I'd like to see what some of these new feature players can do. But I really feel like because of the ensemble, it's kind of given me what everyone can do. Everyone's had a moment to shine. Even Devin Walker, he had a sketch. Like, I'm really just looking forward to more of that. Like, I wish I could say I need something big, but no, like I'm having a really great time, and this is really enjoyable. They need to keep up the diversity of the hosting picks. I've been liking that. You know, I've really been enjoying the different types of people they're bringing in. So I think if the show kind of follows if this is the new template, you know, side B of 48, I'm in. I'm in. I'm having a great time.
Rich, it's been so great getting your thoughts all season long. Always so thrilled to get to talk to you on the podcast. So what are your final thoughts on season 48?
I so wanted to say I disagree with TJ on the diversity of hosting, just to have the most ridiculous No, I'm totally kidding. No, I'm just being ridiculous. Obviously a huge bummer we didn't have a season finale. I'm definitely nervous that there are some cast members that may choose to leave, and that would be a bummer if they didn't get the season finale. Even when we have cast members that don't tell us until the summer, we know that they had kind of known, and so they're not going to get that. Obviously weird that we all kind of knew there was going to be a writer's strike. There was very little chance it was going to happen. So we had that Jenna, we had the Ana de Armas episode where everyone kind of knew it was going to be the season finale, but we couldn't kind of emotionally go there. But yeah, I do think my biggest fear is that we don't have a season 49 this calendar year there, if the writer's strike ends in December, will we do a couple of Christmas episodes, or will we just come back in January of next year? Because I think this is going to be a really long writer's strike. But boy, if you want to know the value of writers in Hollywood, watch SNL this year. That's the takeaway. Look at how great they were. I would love for them not to bring on too many new people. I would love for them to still go meta, keep going weird. I hope that people take away how much the audience loved the weirdness, the different, the new, the meta, that we're really resonating. We don't need the formulas as much as we did years ago. We're a smart audience. And to TJ's point, half the people, I would say 90% of the people I know that say SNL, I saw that sketch, it wasn't funny. I found it's because they watched it on YouTube on a Tuesday afternoon with a Zoom meeting at work going on. If you're not watching it on TV, you're not watching Saturday Night Live. You're watching something else. So let's give it a break. But I do think when it comes back, this cast will be shot out of a fucking cannon. And that's going to be really fun to see.
I totally agree. I really hope that it's not going to be until next calendar year, but you will see how things go, obviously. For me, at least, I would predict that they're going to add at least one more cast member. I think that they like to add somebody new into the mix every year to keep things fresh. I think if somebody leaves, they may add 2 people, but I would say cap it at that, because I think what we have now is the core of the next great SNL cast. It just really, really strong sketch performers who are out there. I think we have some really strong writers as well. I love the sustained excellence that I brought up between probably, somewhere near the Chappelle Keke Palmer episode all the way through to the Pedro Pascal episode. I think, that is such a strong stretch of Saturday Night Live that if you were to catch somebody up on 48, just show them those, 8 or 9 episodes and they would be like, oh my God, I'm hooked. And that's so exciting for us to get to cover the show and do it that way. And like I said, we got more season 48 postseason content out. I really encourage you to come back for By the Numbers, because it's going to be a really fun show. We're also going to have a patron feedback show where we're going to answer your questions. But if this is the last time that you're listening to season 48 content here, I just want to thank you for joining us each and every Monday night for our roundtables. Just the best time getting to hang out with all the different analysts, panelists, everybody here, and in the chat all week, all season long. It's just so cool to get to talk to all of you about Saturday Night Live. So I appreciate all of you, and you help make this the most fun job in the world. So I would just like to invite you to come join us next Monday night. We have something very fun that I'm cooking up. I'm not going to say who it is just in case it falls through, but I'm hoping it'll come together. One former cast member that a lot of our audience has been asking to hear from for a while now is going to be joining us for SNL Stories. I'm hoping that's going to come together this week and then we could air it next Monday. So just a little bit of a tease on that. I think it would be a really fun one if that comes together. So that would be next Monday. And then middle of the week next week is By the Numbers. The following Monday, the 29th, will be our final patron feedback show. And then I'll announce the June schedule. We have plenty of summer content as well to get through. All right. TJ Randolph, thank you so much for joining us all season long. Where can the listeners check out everything you got going on?
Well, I have a 15-minute podcast called Rabbit Trail. That will be, we'll actually be doing our 100th episode in a couple of months. I think we're like 87, 88 episodes right now. We're chugging along. Just honestly talking about whatever we want. I've had lots of wonderful friends from the SNL network and some other buddies on the show. Really have been enjoying doing it. This week we did talk about The Legend of Zelda. And next week, as long as everything still works out, we should be having Mr. Sean Grant join us. We're going to be talking about turning 30. So that Bo Burnham song from 2 years ago from Inside has been stuck in my head, and I've been waiting to play it the morning that I turned 30. Coming this Friday, actually, it's going to be my birthday. So I figured we would do a little special episode talk. Thank you. Do a little special episode talking about turning 30 and kind of, what's that next stage of that next decade like. So, and Sean's wonderful. Oh, yes. You can follow my podcast, Rabbit Trail. Again, that's RABID at We Are Rabbit Trail on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can find me, TJ, at King Compliment on TikTok and Instagram. Oh, I recently had my first big video, so that was fun. It was just a recording of my friend talking about a video game that we both like, but that was fun. It was cool. So I don't know, life's good, DJing, having fun. Life's really good.
Awesome. Well, somebody who knows a little bit about turning 30 is Rich Tackenberg. So, Rich, thank you for joining us.
By the way, happy birthday last season. This shirt turned 29 years old last season. So I'm excited to, it is going to be 30.
Richard's one and a half 30-year-olds.
Oh my God. I love it. But boy, I tell you, the idea of TJ and Sean on a podcast together, I'm listening. That is
we've done it before. This will be the second time on my podcast.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to check it out.
No, I'm just letting you know. Yeah, he's coming on the show again.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. As everyone knows that, at the end of the SNL season, I go into a pod and I hibernate so the writer's strike better be short because I don't emerge until there's a new season of SNL. So
how big will the beard be, Rich?
I know. If you're in LA storytelling, I'm around the indie shows Moth. Other than that, social media, I'm
the Moth?
Old of the I do the Moth.
Oh,
I want to do the Moth.
I love the Moth.
Oh, let's talk.
That's so cool.
Okay.
I love
I want to do the Moth so much.
I used to do live storytelling. Live storytelling
rocks.
Wow. That's awesome, Rich.
That's amazing.
It's very fun.
The Moth is huge.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Y'all, if you don't know what the Moth is, you get into it. The Moth is amazing.
The Moth, This American Life, Risk. I don't know if anyone is a Risk fan.
I've done Risk a couple of times. I love Risk. Yeah.
Can you please later? Desi, can you send me which episodes? I will listen to them because I love Risk. Oh my god.
Okay, we'll talk later.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Sorry.
All right. Well, I don't know much about The Moth, but I know about Mother. So, Amanda.
I am Mother.
Yeah, I
know.
Yeah.
John's calling me Mother. John is calling me Mother. Wow.
Where can the listeners check out everything you got going on? Thanks for being on the podcast all season long.
I'm always happy to be here. John is the only person I let text me to make plans. Most of the time I'm like, send me an email. But like even my friends, I'm like, send me an email. I doesn't exist in most of my inbox. I thank you so much for having me, John. It's always such a joy and a pleasure. Happy birthday, TJ. I hope you have
thank you.
My Taurus king. And if you all like my stupid voice and my stupid work, you can go read it over at refinery29.com, where I am the senior beauty writer and stories creator.
Senior.
Yes, very much. Senior. Yes, very lucky. Senior beauty writer, stories creator. My work is over there. I wrote a story about testing out $1,400 in skincare devices. So if you are looking to spend too much money on something, go read my story before you do. Otherwise, you can go follow me on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok at Loch Ness Manda, where I am absurd on all 3 platforms at all times. So, it's a vibe. It's cool. Yeah.
Speaking of your social media, I just want to say there's something you post like taglines in your social media. And I remember a long time ago, you did one that I just want to say to you and every other woman out there. None of you can fix Kendall Roy. No one can. This was something you posted that like you can fix Kendall Roy. No one can fix Kendall Roy.
No.
All right, let's table this for when Kendall Roy maybe hosts SNL one day, which could.
And honestly, John, when you emailed me the book for this week, I was like, this man knows Jeremy Strong is hosting SNL. He knows.
I thought it was Kieran Culkin is hosting.
It was Kieran Culkin, but I was like, this man is he
Jeremy
knows.
Strong
and
is never hosting Saturday Night Live.
I can never see that happening. I don't think that will ever happen.
I could because he wants to do anything Daniel Day-Lewis did and everything Daniel Day-Lewis didn't. So absolutely, I think Aaron Sorkin could convince him to do SNL.
Did Daniel Day-Lewis host SNL?
He'll want to do SNL. They would never book him.
They would never. Yeah.
Well, if you like this type of content, these types of discussions, then
go
check
follow
out
me on Instagram.
Yeah. We got plenty of podcast content available to you on YouTube or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find the Saturday Night Network. Please subscribe because it helps people find the show, especially during the summer. I cannot reiterate that enough. Yeah. When it's the off season, it's even more important that you follow and subscribe your favorite podcasts and shows because it like I said, it helps with the algorithm for people to find them. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram to help see everything we're doing on social media. We have a lot of fun stuff cooking up for social media. So looking forward to all of that all summer long. And really, like I said, just want to thank TJ, Rich, and Amanda for joining us for this wrap-up show tonight. So much fun. Thanks to everybody in the chat for joining us live. And if you're watching this after the fact, let us know what your picks were. Did we get it right? Did the audience get it right? Comment on the video below. We'd love to see your thoughts, and it's always great to read all of that feedback. All right. My name is Jon Schneider from the Saturday Night Network, and for the final roundtable in season 48, we will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.